Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up's journey through the world of Pixar in the lead up to this summer's release of The Incredibles 2, the 20th feature film from the studios. Here we take a look back at the sequel that left audiences and critics alike a little bit baffled. Cars 2. After a period that can only be described as golden for Pixar, 2007 to 2010, for their 12th animated feature, the studio decided that audiences needed a sequel to one of the, so far, less well-received films in the canon, 2006's Cars. Abandoning his work in the director's seat for the hugely successful third installment of Toy Story, director John Lasseter decided to dedicate his creative muscles to the Cars franchise. But from the outset, we're wondering why they decided to make a sequel to the first Cars over something like Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, or The Incredibles. What was so special about Lightning McQueen, Mater and co. that audiences needed to return to this world? As soon as the film begins, we're immediately in a more stylised world than its predecessor. Michael Caine is the voice of Daredevil spy car Finn McMissile, mid-mission for starters. The opening of Cars 2 is actually one of the film's saving graces, and it actually holds up well in the action stakes. This is essentially John Lasseter showing that he could direct James Bond with an explosive action sequence that unfortunately is about as exciting as the whole film gets. It's downhill from here, folks. The plot this time around will take us out of the quiet, neighbourly Radiator Springs that was the big selling point of the first film, and up the stakes. Since we last saw him, Lightning McQueen, again voiced by Owen Wilson, has become the recipient of the coveted Piston Cup 3 times, a cup which is now dedicated to the late Doc Hudson from the first film. Doc Hudson, we learn, is another character that won't be reprised for this sequel. McQueen quickly finds himself putting his name in for the World Grand Prix, and it's Sally who convinces McQueen to allow Mater to tag along with him on his world tour. Yes, Mater, Pixar's chief Marmite character. What follows is the first film's secondary character being bumped up to protagonist, as McQueen only has to worry about interviews and racing. Michael Giacchino returns to Pixar after his superb work on more recent outings Ratatouille and Up to take over from the first Cars composer Randy Newman, and injects more life and soul into the score, definitely lending it the spy feel that the story warrants. As the characters make their way to Japan on the first leg of the World Grand Prix, it's clear to see that Pixar haven't scrimped on the detail. Say what you want about Cars 2, but the animation is crisp and detailed, and it's obvious that the creative crews at Pixar have spent time researching the countries they will represent in the film. Giving the film a multinational flavour was a bold move, but expanding the story out so far makes it far removed from the contained, intimate adventure that was the first Cars film, and ironically just highlights that Pixar are starting to lose their originality. There are some fun exchanges between characters. When Finn McMissile introduces himself to Mater as British intelligence, Mater responds that he is average intelligence. And there's an extension to the great voice cast of the first film this time around, with John Turturro playing Francesco Bernoulli, Emily Mortimer as Holly Shiftwell, one of the more interesting new characters this time around, and Eddie Izzard is Miles Axelrod. Unfortunately, there are far too many puns on car names for a multitude of new characters that it feels impossible to keep up most of the time. The second act of the film takes the World Grand Prix into Italy, where the plot deepens for Mater, who has been taken in by McMissile and Shiftwell for a mission, before the finale takes us to a well-animated London, complete with Big Bentley, and the more subtle Tyre Bridge, and a corner pub called Ye Left Turn Inn. Despite the fact that there is far too much going on and too much to be looking at in this sequel, there are a lot of cool references and nods to the Pixar canon to look out for. It's Mater to the rescue as the character ends up with a knighthood from a car version of Queen Elizabeth II, no less, for halting the villain's plans to bomb the Grand Prix in a finale that ramps up the stakes and is actually well animated for the most part. It's our Crawford-Clark close-up standout scene. The problem with Cars 2 is that it's a decidedly mixed bag. There are moments where you feel that Pixar are still at the top of their game, with some good humour and set pieces, but then they make left-field decisions and try to change the style that worked in the first film too much, and make you wonder why they couldn't have made this sequel more straightforward. After a string of Oscar-winning success for the studio, it's no coincidence that Cars 2 is the first film from Pixar not to even be nominated in the Best Animation Oscar for the year. The film was, however, nominated for the Best Animated Feature Film at the Golden Globes. Ultimately, despite good intentions from returning Pixar head John Lasseter to expand the world of Cars and make a thrilling sequel, this didn't compute with audiences and critics who had just been treated to the emotionally satisfying Up and Toy Story 3 in the last couple of years. Making Mater central to the plot wasn't Pixar's brightest idea, and the film as a whole represents an artistic nadir for the series. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up, we rate Cars 2... Where does Cars 2 sit in your personal Pixar ranking? Does it fall to the bottom of the pile like so many reviewers? Or is there more to enjoy about this film than everybody realises? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you like this review, please subscribe to our channel. You can connect with Crawford-Clark Close-Up on social media. Come and look for us on Facebook and Twitter, or you can email us your thoughts and opinions about the channel, crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. We're moving very close now to the release of The Incredibles 2 in the UK this summer, but we've still got more Pixar features to come. Up next, will it be unlucky number 13 for Brave? Thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.